All right. Well, hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to San Francisco Heritage semi-annual meeting. And I guess also Happy New Year as our first meeting of 2023. So welcome in. For those of you who may not know me yet, my name is Paul Littler. I am the chair of the board of directors. And I really enjoyed getting to meet probably many of you in our annual meeting back in September of last year at the Hobart building. So as part of our DEI commitment, we start all of our meetings with the land acknowledgement. So let's just read that before we get started. We acknowledge that San Francisco Heritage stands on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula and an integral and active community in the Bay Area and beyond. SF Heritage affirms their sovereign rights as First Peoples and pays our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community. So with that, I'd like to hand over to our CEO, Carolyn Monte. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be with you here today, and I wanted to take some time to go through some of our highlights of what we have been working on over 2022 and what we have to look forward to in 2023. But before starting, I wanted to make sure that you are familiar with our board of directors. We have a stellar team of 16 professionals who are really guiding us through how to safeguard what makes San Francisco special. In addition to our board, we also have a wonderful team of staff working on our historic properties, working on our advocacy and outreach. We have some new faces, as you can see, and we are really looking forward to connecting with all of you in the year ahead. We are not San Francisco Heritage without all of our members and our supporters. We really consider you our ambassadors, and we really appreciate your membership and your support, and we're looking forward to engaging with you in the year ahead and seeing how you can help us get other members to join our efforts. In addition, we really couldn't get a lot of the work that we get done without our sponsors. We've had a lot of corporate sponsors in the past year, and if you or your organization is interested in supporting us, please reach out through the links below. San Francisco Heritage's mission is to preserve and enhance San Francisco's unique architectural and cultural identity. We are really looking to our mission to guide everything that we are doing. Our vision for the organization is to create a sense of community, of optimism and engagement in our collective capacity to positively influence the safeguarding of San Francisco's architectural and cultural identity. Last summer, our board of directors identified the values that are guiding all of our work and engagement in San Francisco. Of course, our land acknowledgement is really at the forefront of our commitment, and we want to make that a meaningful commitment through our actions. We also use a diversity, equity, access, and inclusion lens to guide all of our work, our recruitment, and our programs. It's very important that we are embracing a broad view of preservation, which includes safeguarding both tangible and intangible heritage, but also promoting the historic cultural landmarks, the legacy businesses, and the other cultural resources that reflect the diversity and the collective identity of San Francisco's people and places. We recognize the need to balance preservation and development, and we also believe in the positive contribution preservation can make to addressing the climate crisis. Lastly, we reaffirm our original commitment to advocate on behalf of the city's resources, even in the face of controversy, and we have confidence in the critical role of advocacy, policies, and education in the preservation of the architectural heritage and the cultural diversity of San Francisco. Last summer, we adopted a strategic plan to guide us through the next 3 years. These are overlapping goals that are guiding our work, that are focusing on reinforcing our relevance, expanding our resources, and broadening our reach. Since we have not only our mission for advocacy and for preservation, which is expressed through programs and communication, education, and partnerships, we are also in the unique position to be stewards of 2 cultural properties, 2 historic landmarks in San Francisco. One is the Hassel-Lilienthal House Museum, where we're headquartered and where we run our museum and other partnership functions. And the other is over at Haight-Ashbury at the Doolin Larson residence and storefronts, which has really been powerful in helping us reach out to new audiences and engage more people in our mission. So I wanted to start, since we met at the Hobart Building last September, to give some highlights from 2022 since we last met. We have been working hard to get grants to support our work, and we have succeeded in getting some support ranging from everything from our internship program to restoration of the piano in the Hassel-Lilienthal House, support for our education program, and more. In addition, we've put a big focus with our wonderful new Director of Advocacy Programs and Communications to support a lot of the advocacy that's going on right now around the Castro Theater. You may have seen the slide that Christine Madrid-French had on the screen earlier, inviting everyone to a town hall meeting tonight. We've also, our Projects and Policy Committee has been looking at the development projects at Temple Emmanuel, at Heritage on the Marina, and for the earthquake shacks. Chris has been working with different community and cultural districts on the Latino historic, the North Beach and the DeBosi Triangle historic context statements. And we also went last fall and testified in favor of the landmarking of St. James Presbyterian Church and the city cemetery, which our former colleague Woody LaBounty was so instrumental in helping get that as San Francisco's first archaeological site historic landmark. We are really pleased that we had the privilege of working with consultant Christopher Verplank, who helped us do a monitoring of our 60 conservation easements in the city. And those have all been taken care of in 2022. For me, the highlight of last year was our landmark luncheon. This was an opportunity to partner with legacy businesses and to acknowledge and honor and celebrate the wide variety of actors who are involved in preservation advocacy. We highlighted 4 main success stories from 2022, the landmarking of St. James Presbyterian Church, the landmarking of the Mother Building, the creation of the Sunset Chinese Cultural District, and the promotion of legacy businesses, and notably our work with Club Deluxe in Haight-Ashbury. We plan on doing this again this year, and we hope all of you will join us. We've continued to put priority on supporting our legacy business program, and we were very pleased to get funding from the Small Business Anti-Displacement Network to help us do a case study on how San Francisco uses legacy businesses and cultural districts to prevent the displacement of small businesses. Our program here in San Francisco is a model that is duplicated around the world, and it's something that we have a lot to be proud of and that we need to all continue to make sure we take care of our legacy businesses. We've also been working closely with the cultural districts. This past quarter, we worked with Calle 24, the Latino Cultural District, with the Mission Cultural Center for Latino Arts, and we celebrated Latino Heritage Month. We've also celebrated Native American Heritage Month with the American Indian Cultural District and worked closely with the engagement of the community that will be involved in the Sunset Chinese Cultural District. And we have been all year long working very closely with the Castro LGBTQ Cultural District for the interior landmarking of the Castro Theater, And lastly, we were very pleased to be able to promote the newest cultural district established in Visitation Valley, the Pacific Islander Cultural District, and to see how we can work with other cultural districts to get their historic context statements finalized. We've put a big priority on partnering with Bay Area preservation and cultural organizations, and our partnership with the Victorian Alliance last fall was a big success. We had an event to kick off their house tour, their annual house tour, and we look forward to partnering with the Victorian Alliance again this fall. We had a wonderful conversation series empowering and honoring Native American history in San Francisco with a stellar lineup of Dr. Warjack, Greg Castro, and we had a representative from the American Indian Film Institute. We celebrated Latino Heritage Month in our gallery on Haight-Ashbury, Gallery 1506. You can see on the right, we had a visit from Dean Preston, seeing what was happening over there. It was really exciting to see how this cultural center brought in a community to learn about their work and also to learn about the work of San Francisco Heritage. We've continued to invite artists and activists and academics to stay at this house on the corner of Haight-Ashbury in line with our mission. We had the poet Tongo Ison Martin there in September and October, and then we welcomed the activist and author Lenata Warjack in November and December. The Hassel Lilienthal House is always a wonderful place for events, and we really encourage you to think about that for your next special event. You can come and see the house on guided tours on the weekend, and private tours are also available. We were thrilled to be able to restart the Heritage Hikes this September after a long break during COVID. The schools are really excited to be back, and our wonderful museum manager, Pam Larson, really has the special touch with the volunteers and with the children to make them excited about learning about the history and the heritage through their Heritage Hike visits. This year was sold out weekend after weekend for the Mayhem Mansion. There was such a wide variety of people that came to have fun and go through the house. And what was really wonderful to me was that a lot of them wanted to come back and see it when it wasn't, all dressed up for Halloween. And so we really were able to have a broad outreach to a lot of youth and a lot of people from outside of San Francisco who came to the haunted house and who are looking forward to coming back and engaging with San Francisco heritage. And of course, our popular holiday events were really wonderful this year. We had the house decorated and had a lot of people for our open house and our holiday teas. One of the other things that we tested out last fall was a partnership with New Door Ventures. It works with underserved youth to get them work experience. We welcomed Anthony Cluis, and he helped us out throughout the fall with a lot of our activities, and he also learned about the legacy businesses. We are always looking for interns and volunteers and welcome any suggestions you have to help us get docents for the house tours, communication help, and other. Lastly, I wanted to take a minute to just remind everyone how vital our website, our social media, and our newsletter are to really actively supporting all of our awareness raising, our outreach, and our advocacy efforts. We have a variety of sites that I wanted to make sure everyone is familiar with. We have our main World Heritage or San Francisco Heritage website that you can learn all about the events of what's happening, how to donate, what's happening for advocacy, legacy businesses, and cultural districts. We also have a news site we launched last summer that's focused exclusively on what's happening at Haight-Ashbury. It gives you information about who's in our gallery 1506, who are artists in residence, and what's the history of the building, and what are our plans for this wonderful structure at this iconic corner. And last but not least, we have a special page dedicated exclusively to the Hassel Lilienthal House. Here you can find out about tours and house rentals, programs and special events, how to volunteer, and other resources. So we welcome you to visit regularly these websites. We also have a really popular Instagram page where for both our San Francisco Heritage and our Hassel Lilienthal House, where you can learn everything that we're paying attention to with advocacy and outreach. And lastly, I wanted to remind you that we have a YouTube channel where you can watch videos of events and programs you may have missed. For example, this semi-annual meeting will be rebroadcast on our YouTube channel, but we had a really important housing conversation last fall that you can go and look at that. You can see interviews with our artists in residence and other things, plus the video from our 50th anniversary, which is a must-see. So our communication channels have really helped us to have broader outreach beyond the Bay Area. And we have a lot of followers on our different pages. And if you're not already following us on these social media channels, please do. So now I wanted to just take a moment to share with you some of the highlights of things we're looking forward to doing with you as we move into 2023. In January, we have Emic, who is a wonderful, iconic artist at our Gallery 1506. He'll be there through February 11th. We're also going to be at the Castro Town Hall tonight, and we are also partnering with the Sunset Chinese Cultural District for their Lunar New Year celebration. In February, we will be paying close attention to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting on the Castro Theater Interior Landmark designation. We invite all of you to either participate online or down at City Hall, make your voice heard. We are very excited to be celebrating African American History Month in February through an exhibition at our Gallery 1506 at Haight-Ashbury. And we're doing that in partnership with the African American Arts and Culture District. And lastly, we will announce the launch of our Heritage in the Neighborhood theme for 2023, which is Bayview. And that will be on February 23rd at our 1506 gallery. And we invite all of you to save the date for that. In March, we're going to be celebrating Women's History Month. Our San Francisco Heritage Conversation series is going to focus on women muralists of San Francisco. In April, we are active partners of the California Preservation Foundation annual conference at Fort Mason. The theme this year is placekeeping, placemaking, and we are leading the session on cultural districts, a full day where we're partnering with Japantown and other cultural districts, American Indian Cultural District, to guide visitors and participants in this conference through San Francisco's cultural districts and the program. I'm also really excited to bring a contact that I have from my time at UNESCO to San Francisco to talk about the potential World Heritage values of San Francisco as a city. We will be organizing a meeting at the Hobart Building and a reception afterwards. In May, we'll be celebrating International Museum Day, giving free admission and special activities at the Hassel Lilienthal House. And we are very excited to welcome back Eisen, who are going to be producing Out of Sight, Hate at our Gallery 1506. We will come together again for our semi-annual meeting, this time in person. And tentatively that's scheduled at the Hobart Building again. And we are really excited to launch our conversation series that is going to focus on the downtown revitalization and preservation. In June, we'll be hosting our landmark luncheon, looking at who are the heritage heroes in preservation advocacy for 2023. There we have Richard Rothman accepting his certificate for all of his steadfast advocacy for the Mothers Building. And in July, we will start actively in our programming over in Bayview, partnering with the African American Arts and Culture District, having community alliance meetings, looking at their cultural and historic resources, participating in awareness raising and advocacy, and seeing what kind of community-led preservation project we can help support. We will also have that Heritage in the Neighborhood Bayview be the focus of our conversation series in August. And in September, we will organize our major fundraising event, and we will also participate in Open Doors California. Here you have a photo of the Salon and Speakeasy event we did last fall, which partnered with all of our different artists we've been collaborating with over at Haight Ashbury, and had a wonderful animated evening at the Haas Lilienthal House. In October, we're really excited to see how can we activate the Haas Lilienthal House all month long. Our wonderful new director of advocacy programs and communication, Christine Madrid French, has many ideas for October. So I really will be looking forward to what she has planned. And in November, we will partner again with our beloved American Indian Cultural District to celebrate Native American Heritage Month, and have the cultural districts of San Francisco be the focus of our conversation series. And then again, next December, we will get the decorations out and start again. So that's a highlight of what we have in store for the year ahead. And I look forward to questions that you may have for me or my team or the board members who are participating. And I just want to thank all of you again for taking the time out of your busy day to join us today and to learn more about what we had happening in 2022 and what we are looking forward to doing with you in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. That was wonderful to hear everything that's coming up. And welcome, everyone. I am Christine Madrid French. I am the Director of Advocacy Programs and Communications. And I see a lot of you in the audience were at our CPF webinar the other day, so welcome back. If you have any questions, you can post those in our Q&A box, which is available at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can go ahead and click in there. Carolyn, I have a couple of questions just to start with. That might help clarify what we're doing next year. So you talk about San Francisco maybe as being a World Heritage Site, and I know that lies within your expertise. Could you maybe explain what does that really mean to have a World Heritage Site? What comes with that? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Am I unmuted now?
Yeah, you're okay.
Okay, World Heritage status comes with a lot of responsibilities, a lot of benefits, but a lot of responsibilities as well. And the World Heritage Convention, which was adopted by UNESCO in 1972, it identifies natural and cultural heritage sites around the world that rise above national heritage to be of value to all of humanity. So an easy example is like the pyramids of Egypt or Taj Mahal or the Great Barrier Reef. In the US, we have about 17 or 18 World Heritage Sites already. Most recently, the architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright was inscribed on the World Heritage List. But most of the World Heritage in the US are natural sites like the Grand Canyon and others. But for San Francisco to be a World Heritage City, it would join a network of 50 other cities around the world that are already inscribed on the World Heritage List. So places like Prague or Berlin, City of Paris, places like that. It holds conservation and preservation to the highest international standards, but you do have to identify what is so special about the cultural aspects of it. So, of course, we would be looking at the architecture of San Francisco and identifying what are the sites that are really worth, highlights of the city's cultural heritage and that need, this international status, which also brings international funding and international tourism. So one of the aspects of San Francisco that excited me the most when I started thinking about it as a World Heritage City, and especially as we've been advocating so much for the Castro Theater, is the fact that San Francisco has a lot of sites associated with its LGBTQ history and culture, the Castro being at the forefront of that. And there is a criteria of World Heritage, which is association with historical events and past things. It's more the intangible aspects of heritage. And that cannot be used alone. You can never inscribe a World Heritage Site just for the intangible qualities, but it can be part of it. And so I think that the conversation that we have this April about it, I would like to also put that out there, that would we want to, well, first of all, would we want to nominate San Francisco? And if we did, would we want to highlight as well its sites that are associated with its LGBTQ history and culture? Because that makes it rise above the national level, because people from all around the world come to San Francisco because it is such a beacon of diversity. And
definitely. I was going to following up on that. And if you have any questions, everybody, I can see your names in the attendees. If you have any questions, go ahead and post those in the Q&A box. But Caroline, I've sensed a little bit confusion when I'm working with the community in terms of architectural versus cultural versus intangible heritage. And architectural is pretty clear. Cultural would be, based on, a movement or where somebody spoke or learned something. I was look at the Lion Martin House, that would be culturally significant for the part that it played within LGBTQ history. But how about intangible? Like, what is really, how can you explain that to everyone? What is really intangible heritage, and why is San Francisco so special because of the amount that we have here?
yeah, intangible cultural heritage are things that give people, an individual, a community, or a group, a sense of identity and belonging. And there could be tangible things that are associated with that, but it's more, it could be a tradition, it could be a celebration, it could be a festival, Carnaval, Dia de los Muertos. It could be a wedding, ritual. It could be a way that someone celebrates meals. It really is something. It's a tradition. It's a celebration. Could be a festival. So it's things that give you a sense of identity, pride, and belonging in the community. And this has been really interesting in our work this past year. And since you've joined, I know you've really dove in to look at these historic context statements, but especially when you look at the Latino Cultural District, they're really looking at their intangible cultural heritage. And of course, the American Indian Cultural District as well, because there's also a lot of things that have gone, right? We don't always have physical traces of things that were there, but what are the remnants in our traditions and in our customs that show that's part of our culture and our identity? So these are, I know that UNESCO works with cities to do inventories of intangible cultural heritage, and we've been working closely with planning to share some of the tools and guidance that UNESCO advises, and that other cities in Canada and other, I think we shared examples from Warsaw and Quebec of how they're approaching identifying and safeguarding their intangible cultural heritage.
So Andrew, hey Andrew, he posted in our chat. So would the cable car system be an example of that? Maybe it's not so much, maybe that's more of an artifact, but maybe it's your experience on the cable car system. What would you say to that, Carolyn?
Well, I think he's talking about that maybe for the World Heritage. I mean, I would see that more as tangible, right? More as that system within the city that could be one of the items inventoried as far as what's so special about San Francisco and that needs to be safeguarded, right? That's another key aspect of it. It's that we care, we want this here for future generations. So it needs to be safeguarded, it needs to be prioritized. So a lot of these things are already landmarked as city landmarks or national landmarks or historic treasures. But going to this next level of international level recognition, that brings you to the highest international standards for conservation. It also brings in international, like I said, international funding, and it brings in international support.
That's interesting. So preservation sometimes is, it turns the world up on itself. So one of the buildings that's reaching 50 years this year is the Transamerica Pyramid, celebrating its 50th anniversary. According to the National Register of Historic Places and the Secretary of the Department of Interior and the National Historic Places Act, it would be, or Preservation Act, it would now be declared historic, even though we realize this is a significant building. So how do you see when the city changes? So a building that at first maybe people argued against now has definitely become representative of San Francisco around the world internationally. How do you incorporate maybe other structures into your ideas of San Francisco as a World Heritage type of site? What other buildings might occur to you that are that important?
Well, I think that kind of inventory, I'm newer to the city, and I could tell you, places that I see. I mean, there's even structures like the Golden Gate Bridge and, other iconic buildings across the city. I mean, there's so many, I couldn't highlight one, but I do think that when we come together, one of the important things to note is that you need the community buy-in, and you also need, if it's a private building, you need to have that owner agreeing. And so that can be a challenge for some cities that are trying to get some of their buildings and structures. But when you were talking about buildings that were controversial and then become part of our historic fabric, it kind of reminded me of this city of Paris, this big fight that actually San Francisco Heritage was at the forefront of lobbying to save the city of Paris. And unfortunately, it wasn't saved. You only have the glass dome over at Neiman Marcus, but then we were contacted last year by Neiman Marcus, who's celebrating its 40th anniversary, and trying to be an anchor for the downtown revitalization. And that makes us take a fresh look at, that building at Union Square, and at looking at how can the downtown revitalization also be informed by these cultural districts, and how everything's reviving, it seems, in the neighborhoods, but what's happening downtown. So how can we work together I know the Chamber of Commerce is leading the charge on, the conversation on the downtown revitalization, but San Francisco Heritage wants to be at the forefront of the thinking on that, and also use our cultural districts and neighborhood alliances to see how we can help see what's the best way forward for downtown.
And we had that very successful housing conversation here at the Haas Lilienthal House. Do you have any more insights on that now that we've gotten a few months from that conversation?
Yeah, I think we're all worried and concerned about 2023 and the impact that this can have. I had someone call just before the meeting who said he was at the housing conversation and reached out to Senator Wiener to see what kind of amendments could be made, to help historical and cultural resources not be negatively impacted by the affordable housing that, is going to be built. But I did really appreciate the panelists that we had and the insights that they gave. And I think everyone agreed that it just was the beginning of the conversation, and we need to keep our finger on the pulse of that and see how, we can continue having regular conversations on that throughout the year. I would invite any member who hasn't followed that conversation to go on our YouTube channel and watch those videos. It's recorded, and we were really lucky to have such a stellar panel share their time with us and talk about this.
Yeah, and it's also available on our website, and I will post the link in our chat, but you should all know where to reach us. It's San Francisco Heritage. Carolyn, just to sort of wrap it up, can you explain what's going on with the Castro Theater? So you and I are going to be at a town hall meeting tonight, and then also February 1st at the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Maybe you can kind of update people on where we are on that issue.
Sure, that was probably the first thing that I dealt with when I joined the organization last year. I had a call from Another Planet Entertainment that wanted San Francisco Heritage to look at their plans for the theater. So we have members of our board of directors that looked at the plans and went and visited the theater to see what was proposed and to give our advice on, the renovations. And from that visit, we helped spearhead the proposal for the interior landmarking. So this is a 100-year-old movie palace with a lot of history, but the interior is not landmarked. And so our members of our board of directors that are on our projects and policy committee helped formulate some wording that's proposed for interior landmarking. Meanwhile, the Cultural District, the Castro Theater Conservancy, the Small Business Association around the Castro, and many others have raised the red flag and alarm bells about the risk of removing the seats from the theater and not prioritizing LGBTQ in film programming. So I attended a stakeholder meeting that Another Planet hosted at the Castro last, I think it was in August, and it was the most moving public consultation meeting I have ever been to. And I say that having worked 20 years at UNESCO and attended community stakeholder meetings all across, especially East Africa. I think there were 400 or so testimonies, so passionate. And when you talk about intangible cultural heritage, the Castro Theater has it. And the role that that theater and its film programming and LGBTQ programming play in the community, not only of the Castro, but internationally, was tangible in that meeting. So after that meeting, I think there have been a lot of negotiations. There's been Supervisor Mandelman, we've had some conversations with, and there has been tried to have some communication between the various groups to make sure that the concerns over saving the raked flooring, saving the seats, saving the LGBTQ in film programming, prioritizing it. And when I heard at the community stakeholders meeting, the Castro Theater Conservancy and the LGBTQ Cultural District were asking for a commitment from Another Planet to prioritize LGBTQ in film programming, and they weren't getting that. So I think that's kind of caused a lot of alarm among people who are so, worried and concerned about losing this amazing, tangible and intangible resource of San Francisco. And so the meeting tonight is going to give a voice to community members and also help get ready for the meeting at the Historic Preservation Commission next week, where the interior landmarking will be reviewed. So we really would encourage people who are concerned about this to attend tonight. I know it'll also be online. If you can't make it physically, we have information on our website and social media, and also to tune in next week.
And if you decide to come to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting, we're encouraging everybody to wear Castro Theater red in support. And I will be in all red when I'm making my statement for San Francisco Heritage. We have one question or a comment from Howard Wong in our Q&A. And he says that he loves the idea for the San Francisco World Heritage Site. There's another, he says you could add a whole layer of cultural hub for beatniks, hippies, labor, techies, and more. And you can combine this branding with historicism as an economic engine, which is a catalyst for unique identity that attracts business, tourism, and smart workers. And I had a surprise for you, Carolyn. I hadn't told you yet today, but I was doing some more research on the interior of the Castro, speaking of the cultural hub of San Francisco. So the interior of the Castro Theater was painted and decorated by the Fagioni studios. And there hasn't been a lot of research on them yet, but it was a group of Italian brothers who were moved to San Francisco. They lived in a beautiful house in the Bayview, and that house is still there. And these are the people who helped decorate the interior. They worked with Timothy Pfluger and the Nasser brothers on a couple of different theaters, including the Alhambra. And in the Castro, apparently it was the largest sgraffito panels in the United States in a theater at the time they were installed. All brand new information. So that's why history is so interesting. You can always find something new.
Yeah, and I love Howard's idea. And the thing about World Heritage, if you do, decide to go forward with the nomination, is that you have to identify all of the aspects. So identifying architecture, identifying different thematics, these can all go into what makes it so special. It's a decision that's not just city-based. It's much more complicated than we can explain in a short Q&A. And that's why I would invite everyone to come to the meeting that will be open to the public, that we will organize in April, when my former boss, the former director of the World Heritage Center, Francesco Bandrin, and he was also the Assistant Director General for Culture, and he leads numerous World Heritage programs, including our World Heritage, and he will come as well to talk about this aspect, which will be fun for us to consider together.
And he's also the keynote speaker at the Preservation Conference. Is that
Right.
right?
I recommended him, and he will be the keynote speaker at the California Preservation Foundation.
Well, we don't have any more questions right now. This is probably a good time to wrap it up, Carolyn. And do you want to have any final words?
I just want to thank everyone for their membership. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm really excited about our team that we have, having Christine Madrid French. We have other great members of our team. And just to reiterate that we are actively looking for volunteers, for interns, and we really look to our members to help us in our advocacy and our outreach. And just thank all of you. And we look forward to connecting often in the year ahead.
Thank you, Carolyn. And of course, as always, please donate or join San Francisco Heritage so you can get in on all of these activities and get in the know before anybody else does. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up. You can catch the recording on our Facebook or our YouTube, and you can share with your friends and watch it again. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Thank you all for attending.